Hello, everybody, and welcome to Weekly Poll. I am, of course, Sal, and I am joined today by a slew of amazing guests. We've got Joel from Cape Joel, Jason Inman of Jowin, and Tiffany from Comic Pop. Welcome, gang. We're going to be chatting about some comic book and comic book-related topics today, and so I'm not going to stand in the way any longer. Joel, you've got the topics. Let's do this.
All right, let's hop on into this. So I guess the first big story, the one that blew up this week and the one that everyone was talking about, the status of the Matt Reeves Batman movie. He took to Twitter, had a little bit of what I guess you could call a gaffe by saying that Batman would not be in the DC cinematic universe, only for everyone to freak out and him eventually needing to rectify his previous statement.
Now, if I may jump in for a second, because I haven't talked enough yet on this episode, I just want to say that when this news hit my Twitter feed, and boy did it like a metric ton of bricks, my immediate response was, of course it's in the DCEU. Hollywood people don't really use the same terms that we do. And if they do, they don't really understand them sometimes. And so, like, when I heard Matt Reeves say, "Oh no, it's not in the DCU," I'm like, he probably thinks what he's saying is like the Suicide Squad isn't going to show up in this movie, but it is part of the same continuity of movies. And sure enough, that's basically what he just said on Twitter. Yeah. It's like, hey, it's the same Batman. It's just that like Superman's not going to show up in it. It's like, yeah.
It was ultra confusing, too, because, like, several DC film-related stories all hit at the same time, and people really couldn't make heads or tails of a lot of it.
That was weird, and, like, what a confusing and frustrating day it must have been for the PR guy over at Warner Brothers. Like, I got to plug this.
I'm going to be honest with you. I honestly don't know which of those stories have been confirmed, which haven't been confirmed. I just don't know.
It's all up in the air.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Matt Reeves thing is, I'm really glad. I'm glad that we now live in this society where directors are just like coming to Twitter and being like, no, this is how it is.
Yeah.
Because did you guys also hear about the thing a couple weeks ago? The director of Kong Skull Island took CinemaSins to town.
I did
not see that.
So CinemaSins made a video about Kong Skull Island, and the director of Kong Skull Island basically took to Twitter with like 25 tweets and literally was like, and he wasn't an asshole with it. I thought he was very fair, and he was basically like, look, I know Kong Skull Island's not the greatest movie since Citizen Kane, but like, it doesn't need a 17-minute video about why it sucks.
You swear sometimes that CinemaSin guy, it's like, do you even watch the movie?
Yeah. I legitimately stopped watching CinemaSins because of that show. Like, because of the 17 minutes or less, here's all the problems with it. I'm like, this has gone far beyond criticism and gone into, like, the most severe of nitpicking.
Weapons grade nitpicking, you could.
Yeah, and I get it. Like, if you want to nitpick because like you're a comic book channel and you are obsessively like OCD about your comics and your comic book continuity,
who could you be talking about?
Maybe any of us, but like, I'll understand and warrant that. But like, if you're a movie reviewing channel and you're like, ding because you referenced an actor I don't care for, it's like, okay, it's time for you to stop. Like,
I much prefer Cinema Wins, which is like the kind of cottage industry who's another guy who's like, hey, you know, I'm going to talk about all the things I like about the movie in the exact same format. That's hard to do.
Sued into oblivion.
Wow.
Yeah.
But I'm glad Matt Reeves came out and said like, hey, you know, but it is interesting that like, because I think his statement, I think he was just going for that this movie is going to be set in the past and that you won't see anybody from the Justice League in it.
Right.
And it also goes to show the culture we have now for pop culture that they heard that and instead of taking it that, oh, no members of the Justice League will be in it, they were like, it's in a different universe.
He really could have worded it a lot better. And even when he did come back and clarify his statement, be like, oh, no. Well, what we meant to say is that this is going to be focusing on Batman. It's going to be a Batman-centric movie. There was some other stuff that was still kind of up in the air where it's like, well, is Affleck still going to be involved? We know that's sort of up in the air. And he was like, you know.
Yeah.
We'll
I do appreciate not addressing that because it's like, on some level, it's like, you know what? Why don't you just assume that things are working fine right now? Like, Affleck did not give a statement where he decried the system. It wasn't like other actors who have been in movie franchises that when the movie is released, they then just dress it down and scorch earth that movie. I'm talking specifically about people who worked on like Fanforstic, for example, who are like trying desperately to distance it. Affleck has only said, like the only negative criticism he's given is, and it's not even criticism, it's just like, doesn't anybody want to talk about Live by Night? Like that's kind of the only thing that he's really had an issue with.
Which wasn't a terrible movie, by the way.
Oh, I see. I didn't see it because of all the negative
I saw it in theaters, and because I wanted to see what was the movie that Affleck was like, this is what I want in between my Batman movies.
Yeah.
Not terrible, but not his best.
I felt it would have made a better miniseries, like on TV or something, because they put a lot of stuff in there. Like it's a whole lot of condensed.
It would have been a much better like HBO TV event.
I could see Affleck being like, I don't do TV. I work too hard to go back. I'm moving forward. I'm directing and I'm a star. That's it.
It's interesting because I wonder if Affleck leaves.
Right.
If he leaves, I would love to hear the panel's thoughts on this. Will it be a big deal? Because we have already experienced another Batman franchise where they changed actors every other movie, and it didn't make one bit of difference to the box office, and also nobody cared.
Right. Objectively, and more statistically, nobody cared. Like the movie going public was like, eh. Now that said, when it came to casting changes like within the same franchise, like if you're talking about Rachel Dawes, most people were like, yeah, solid change. I wish you would do that whenever we disagree with a casting choice. Like,
I was more going for like the Val Kilmer, Michael Keaton aspect.
Oh yeah, no, that was. Yeah. I will say though, as a comic book fan and as a nerd, like even in 1996 or whatever, I was like, ooh, you changed Batman's. I don't care for that.
Well, okay, but Warner Brothers has done this before, and I'm going to cite Harry Potter, honestly, their changes in Dumbledore, which was something initially people out of the gate were like, this is not going to work, and then it was like, by the end you're like, I don't even know anymore. Like, it didn't even matter one bit. So Warner Brothers, they have a history of doing it, and the fact is, like, if Affleck's not on board or doesn't like where things are going, then don't force him to do it.
Yeah. To bring back to the Dumbledore thing, I mean, their hands were kind of tied in that situation because the dude died, unfortunately. If Affleck's like, yeah, I don't care for these DC movies, I'm out now, I think that sends a pretty strong and pretty negative message to be like, oh, wow, they couldn't even keep their Batman suite. If this dude wasn't having fun being Batman, what does that say about the behind-the-scenes environment?
Yeah. I think that if they lose Affleck, that'll really suck because he's so good as Batman.
Agreed.
But it won't hurt. I feel like it wouldn't hurt anything, but at the same time, the one thing that everyone agrees works is him.
Yeah. And
I feel like it could, based on just the fact that kind of like it looks like all their eggs are in the Affleck basket, but it just so happens like if Affleck were Aquaman. And by the way, I think Jason Momoa is going to fucking knock it out of the park. But I think that if Affleck were Batman, or I'm sorry, if Affleck were Aquaman, they might be a lot more concerned because they're like, no, we need to really sell Aquaman. And I think the only way to do that is with Affleck. It's Batman. It doesn't matter who's in it. And in fact, if it's someone less important or less with less gravatas, they'll wear the mask more. And then you'll get more Batman than ever.
I'll make a statement that I think a lot of people come at me, internet. I don't care.
Bring it.
I think there's one person that could leave the DCEU that would make so many bigger waves than Affleck if he decides to leave, which we don't even know.
Yeah.
Gal Gadot.
Yes.
If she leaves, that I think almost tears this universe in half.
That's the one everyone liked. It was the one that we all agreed.
Yeah, because we all want Wonder Woman too.
Yeah. No, it's true. She's become the heart of this whole thing, like the entire like DCEU. So no, I 100% agree with you. I think Affleck leaving is almost more of a stunt at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we'd be all like, oh well.
Yeah.
But if Gaul leaves, we're all like, no!
Yeah, exactly.
At that point, it's like, just start over. Like, literally just start over if that's the case. We'll all be okay with it.
It's just scorch earth it.
If she leaves, Flashpoint is going to be a lot more detrimental to the DCE. Like, be like, oh no, we're going to change it. We're going to do everything different. We're going to get a whole new costume designer.
Ezra Miller starts out the movie with like the Justice League as we know it. He ends the movie with completely different actors. He's like, who the fuck are you guys?
Yeah, he's going to completely change it.
Which I'd almost respect.
Because a lot of people want to see him change too, and it's like, oh, he'd be the only one.
We're sorry he's not the TV guy. Everyone, Grant Gustin is great, but we gotta deal with Ezra Miller now. Give him a shot. Let the boy try.
He seems like he's fun. I haven't seen him do anything besides say a couple quips, which is like 200% more quips than have been in the last couple of DCEU movies. So I'm down. But yeah, no, I think that that's if Affleck leaves, that sucks. But Gal Gadot leaving would be much
honestly,
more.
look, as long as Jeremy Irons is still there, I'm good.
There you go.
He's a fun Alfred.
He's an unsung hero. He really is. It's like you hear that casting, and you're like, yes.
Yes, I'd like to see that. Thank you.
Can they also, if they do the Flashpoint reboot, can we also get Bryan Cranston to play Gordon and get J.K. Simmons out? I love J.K. Simmons, but I also was like, why did you get him to play Gordon?
Yeah.
I want to keep him as Gordon, but I want Cranston as Luthor.
He'd be great.
Yeah.
Well,
And
there's talk.
He knows how to do that.
There's talk apparently too. Again, this was another thing that hit during the big DC news explosion.
The DC deluge.
The DC deluge. Ooh, I like that. We'll put that on a shirt. I like that. So apparently, Eisenberg did have some parts as Lex that were gonna be in Justice League. Supposedly because that movie's getting moved around a bunch now, and now Whedon has a writing credit where he never did have before. Supposedly, the Luthor scenes got excised.
I read that as well.
That's fine.
Yeah,
if it's true, allegedly, that's fine. I feel bad. Eisenberg really got screwed. He's a good actor. He does a nice job. He almost could have been a really, really amazing Luthor. And if he didn't spend the entire time making fun of Max Landis, I feel like he might have really pulled it off.
Agreed.
That was his whole performance. You see.
Yeah. Pass.
Jolly Ranchers.
Eat this. Out of all the parodies, the How It Should Have Ended parody of Batman vs Superman's the best one, with him just trying to get that Jolly Rancher in the guy's mouth.
I will admit, as far as background marketing goes, I really want a Jolly Rancher now. So job well done.
I like that organic marketing they do.
Yeah, there you go.
Who do you think was the grandma's peach tea sponsor?
Oh, right. I think it was probably Depends or some other
all right
bathroom related group. How
Thanks.
weird. Thanks for reminding me that thing happened. Good. What's next?
All right, so moving on from that, we got some more DC news. I actually kind of combined these stories together because they paint one portrait, and I imagine we'll be able to have conversation over this. Anna Diop, I think that's how you pronounce it, has been cast in Starfire for the new Teen Titans app TV show that's coming down the pipeline. Hadn't seen her in a lot of other stuff. She seems cool. Obviously, of course, because she's an African-American woman playing Starfire, the internet reacted to this the way the internet always reacts to stuff like this.
Well, she's orange, so it doesn't really matter, does it?
Yeah,
Thank you. Exactly. How hard is that?
Yeah.
How about this? To be fair, no matter what race she was going to be the wrong race because, like you said, she's an alien. It doesn't matter.
Iranian, you can't
Starfire's a cat.
Unless you can find one of them. Sorry, it's wrong.
I've seen her on 24 Legacy. She's fine. She's a solid actress. I'm actually really glad they cast an African American in this part because it kind of helps up the diversity quotient as well. Yeah. But it also I think confirms a theory that I had that Starfire I think is going to be just like Martian Manhunter. I think you're only going to see her turn orange when she powers up.
All right. Well, you got to save some money for this app show. We don't know what budget they're working with on this. I can respect that.
That's a good point.
Look, we've watched enough Face Off. They could just make her orange. It's fine. Little paint is good. They could do lots.
Yeah, at least do one makeup test where you do the full thing and just be and just because you could actually, man, I'm just thinking using prosthetic effects, giving her fake hair that goes all the way down to her calves. And then being use CG to just enhance the hair whenever it's in the shot. I think that'd be fine. Yeah. Or at least give us the opportunity to see that.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you because I would like to see them just paint her orange, but from what I've heard, it's the same reason why they don't do it on why Martian Manhunter and Supergirl is a CG face instead of makeup time because if they were to do that. It would mean that she would be 6 hours in a makeup chair every single day.
Who wants that?
Right. And I can imagine, and I'll hear, what's her name? God, now I forgot her name. Oh well.
Jennifer Lawrence.
Yeah, Jennifer Lawrence going like, "Oh, gee whiz, let me just play the world's smallest violin."
Look. All they have to do is get a group of really hungry people who want to make it big in the makeup industry together in a room and tell them it's a spotlight challenge. You have 1 hour to make this woman orange. Go.
Yeah, what can you do in an hour? It'll be like orange dots.
Be like, okay, nope, this did not work.
Yeah, looking cross.
Now, what's interesting about this is that, it dovetails quite nicely with another big story from this week, and that involves Ed Skrein from, of course, Deadpool and Game of Thrones.
Is that how you say it?
Yeah, it's Skrein. That's how I say it.
Cool.
God, which means it's wrong. I have no idea how to say it, but Joel cannot pronounce things.
I think it's Skrein, I'm pretty sure. Ed Skrein, he was supposed to be in that new Hellboy reboot that they got coming down the pipeline. He has now dropped out of it amidst quite a bit of controversy here. He was supposed to be playing an Asian character. I don't know my Hellboy lore. Does anyone know what character he was supposed to be playing? I'm just going to fully admit
I'm going to look it up.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. And as I understand it, he was half Asian, but still the point being, like, he is not any Asian whatsoever, so it doesn't work.
And this isn't his first time filling a role that got people upset. He was, of course, famously the first Dario Naharis in Game of Thrones before he asked for more money, and they're like, yeah, we'll go with this other guy, thank you very much, Ed. Fine, I'll go make Deadpool then, I'll show you.
Okay, and then they kill you, so you can't come back. Cool.
And then he was supposed to play Benjamin Daimio, I think.
Daimo.
It's a member of the BRD, and yes, even looking at the pictures, he is distinctly Asian.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, there you go.
And yeah, I mean, like, to his credit, Ed Skrein like, you know what? I've heard your complaints. I've heard what you're saying. I've also been through this once before with the Dario Naharis thing. Maybe I should respectfully back out now, which he did. And I mean, I've always said in this thing here, and I was even arguing this with my buddy Matt from the Comic Multiverse, where it's like, well, why is this always such a big deal? And I'm like, because there's like a million roles in Hollywood for white people, and maybe like only a handful of roles for everybody else.
Yeah, and it's like, if you have the opportunity, just take it. It's not like there's any reason not to. Here's the thing, no one's going to Hellboy. It's not like, we got to cast Tom Cruise as this character because we know that he guarantees X amount of asses in seats. It's this character that no one that no one on this panel could name. And,
exactly.
Whatever. And it's the Hellboy movie. It's gonna make like $26 million anyway.
It's
also a thing too. But I give him such mad respect for like putting up his values where his career, because he didn't have to do that. He was already cast and he stepped up to it. And it's something that it's a lesson that I wish more white males would learn. Representation actually matters. And I had somebody explain it to me as the perfect metaphor for why representation matters is it's like going to the movies. And it's when they mention your hometown. You freak out. You're like, oh man, that movie's so cool. So the fact is that like these kids, these women, when they see themselves in movies, they get excited.
Yeah.
And when it's not just all white dudes.
Yeah, and it's more so building on that. It's also like it's if they mention your hometown and then it's shot someplace completely different.
Oh yeah,
and it's not your hometown,
and you know it, and that hurts. It's like, come on.
It's like, hey, like I can imagine like someone of like Asian descent being like, hey, cool, that character, I really like them, and like to see, and then seeing Ed Skrein and then being like,
what?
Oh,
yeah,
damn it. You did it again.
Yeah.
Well, you got me again, Hollywood. Nice job.
Another drop in the bucket on this one, eh?
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah. Well, let's go on.
Yeah. So I mean, that's that story. I know people wanted us to talk about it.
No, it's fair. I mean, we were all in agreement on that.
Yeah, got no problem with that. So some costuming news here that I figure we would all enjoy coming to us from Marvel. We got a better look at Evangeline Lilly in her Wasp costume. She has also ditched that horrible wig from the first Ant-Man and going au naturel.
That costume is really uninspiring. I was really disappointed.
I think it'll look better with the helmet and the wings.
It looks like it's from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Like, it looks like one of those non-costumes that they put all the other characters in from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. By the way, and I like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but even I'm like, yo, put them in a colorful costume. Like, let's move on. We're in a superhero show. It's been 7 seasons or whatever. Let's do it. Like,
I was thinking Jaeger Pilot, actually, is what hit me.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
was really,
yeah. All right.
I thought it should be more yellow and red. I was like, even the Ant-Man costume has more red than that costume.
Well, wasn't it more yellow when they showed at the end of the original Ant-Man? Have they changed it since then? Do I have to go back and look at that?
I think you have to go back and look at it.
No, it definitely was.
I feel like I've also seen some promo art, maybe stuff I should have seen and maybe I shouldn't have seen, where it did look more yellow and red.
Maybe it will be later. Tiffany, what do you think?
I haven't seen it, and I can't open the
Google
chat
it.
to look at it.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Well, trust me, she looks like the Patriot.
Wait, hang on. I think I found it. I've been trying to scroll through my phone. I was like, okay, I have to use my phone, internet, and all of a sudden I don't know how that works.
It's too bad because what's ironic about it, and I don't think she even has this distinction as a character in the MCU anyway, but like Janet Van Dyne, the original Wasp, was a...
It does have more yellow in Ant-Man. I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm looking at the pictures. Yeah.
Confirmed.
So I'm
way
not
more yellow.
crazy. So I'm not insane.
She's an outfit. She's a designer, and then you put this character who like has this history of being a like clothing designer into one of the most like boring and bland costumes. She's the Wasp. This should be the time to go with like full colors. Hell, make it Yellow Jacket's costume. Like, like you know what I mean? Even he looked kind of badass. Again, by the way, did they kill him at the end of Ant-Man?
They did.
Yes, they
That
did.
sucks.
Man.
It did look much more yellow.
The red part. All right, Sal. The red part of her costume makes it look like they're trying more to match her to Ant-Man than to allow her to be her own thing.
Then again,
I'm going to color
too,
associate you.
Like, just to theorize here, again, like, we do know that OG Janet did exist in this universe at one point.
Yes.
Is that her mom's original costume? Will she have a costume of her own?
No, because if you remember in the flashback, her mom's costume looked
right.
exactly like Ant-Man's.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
It
then
was
I got no
dead
idea.
on. Yeah.
Yeah. Marrowise brought up a good point. Maybe they're going to add the color in post.
Yeah, possibly.
See,
Which, like,
okay, look,
why?
I get it, but, like, you could literally just do it. You could just make it and be like, hey, look, here it is, and this is what it's going to look like, and maybe we'll touch it up in post, but, like, we're not going to completely change it. Why? Like, why? Why would you do that?
Yeah, that's a radically different looking costume.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
shocking.
It's one of the things where usually they don't nail the superhero costumes in the first go. Like, I actually really like Ant-Man's costume in Civil War way better than I do in his own movie.
Really?
And I feel this is backwards for me. Like, I'm like, no, you guys kind of nailed it when you just made the background thing.
Maybe maybe they'll make a joke out of it where she's like, no, I had to tone that down a little bit.
Maybe.
Watch it, yeah.
Why? You're a superhero.
I had to also change my hair at some point, too. I wonder if that'll be a joke.
Well,
I got rid
It's been
of
a
that
couple
stupid,
years.
outdated Bob.
exactly.
I like the Bob.
Well, I like the Bob on OG Janet, but she's not OG Janet, is she?
That's right.
Yeah, that's fair. All right.
It's a very historically inaccurate hairstyle.
Maybe she's trying to separate herself from the like negative stigma that wasps in nature have.
I guess.
You know, she's like, no, I'm not that kind of wasp.
I'm not an imposter.
That kind of
Yeah.
I'm a good wasp. I won't sting you when it starts getting cold outside to lose my stinger and die.
Yeah. Although this could be the Ant-Man and Wasp costume, and maybe she'll have a totally different costume in Infinity War.
It's true.
Sure.
They change them a lot. They change them with the seasons.
We gotta have a new action
different
figure
costume.
for every movie. We gotta move that merchandise.
That's true.
Yeah, new costumes, new toys. You're dead right.
Yeah. Don't forget that the head of Marvel is a toy man.
He sure is.
He owned Toy Biz.
No, it's true. What's funny though is so many of the costumes, the costumes that the superheroes in the movies have are so not toy friendly to me. I'm just like it's so like black with pieces of like, you know what I mean? Like there's nothing exciting about it. Like it's been lost in translation. And I understand that like yes, what looks good in a comic may not look good on screen, but like it feels like they've just kind of like gotten to this like really like plateau essentially where they're like, let's not go crazy here.
Yeah. No, at least they're not. At least they're not all wearing uniform black leather like
Yeah.
like a certain 2000 movie. Yeah.
We've gotten better.
Yeah, we've moved on from there, but we still have never seen Wolverine in a full costume.
No.
So
And we may never.
And you never will, Sal.
yes, we will.
You never will.
Just go to I was gonna say just go to Hugh Jackman's house. I'm sure he has one.
Yeah.
He's probably got that mask from the Wolverine.
You know he
that's a
kept
good
that.
match.
I would.
I would
If I was
love-
that actor, I would have walked off the set with that thing, and they were like, Hugh? I'd be like, screw you.
Right? It's like
Bill-
Ryan Reynolds with Deadpool. It was like,
Yeah.
yep.
You know, it'd be awesome. It's like if you go to Hugh Jackman's house, he's like, "All right, mate, come in here," and he opens up a book. It's like, and here's the costume that I would have worn, and here's me wearing it.
Here's what you would have seen. Right? It was a terrible idea. Don't do it.
Oh, that'd be funny. So yeah, another costume thing that came out this week, too. In fact, right before we started, we got to see a couple screens from Luke Cage season 2, complete with Misty Knight with her brand new robot arm.
Yes, that's awesome.
Wicked. Fucking
looks
cool.
And it looks cool, and I'm honestly, I tweeted about this earlier. I was like, I am honestly shocked that that it happened so soon. But at the same time, I'm also like, there's somebody on Twitter said, you know, that's a screenshot from episode 13.
Oh,
I'm like, ooh.
Given the slow burn nature of these Netflix Marvel shows,
that's exactly correct, because you know they're going to make the whole season about her struggling to deal with being a cop with one arm.
Yeah, which by the way,
drama.
Like, that's drama, and I like that. I'm sure it'll be cool. I hear also she's going to be in the Iron Fist season 2, which is great because as some of us might know, she marries Danny Rand in the future.
Sure does.
And I don't know if you guys know this, but Danny Rand is the immortal Iron Fist and the sworn protector of Kunlun.
I've heard it once or twice. He's also the eternally surprised that his hand is cool every time he does it.
Yeah.
All right, to be fair, if my hand lit up, and it doesn't matter how many times I did it, I would still be like, look at this. I mean, come on. I'm my own nightlight.
Yeah.
Danny, I can't find my phone in the dark. Help me out. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. It comes in handy all the time.
Thanks, Danny.
But yeah,
actually, it's funny you should mention that about Misty Knight and how this might be the final episode. The villain of this season is going to be Bushmaster, Bush something or other.
Bushman from Moon Knight?
No, not Bushman, Bushmaster, who's a lesser-known Luke Cage type of villain and is actually more of a Misty Knight villain. She busted him back when she was a cop and everything in the comics, and they have a whole thing.
All right.
Interesting. All right.
They should just steal a couple more Iron Man villains. They're not going to use them.
They really could. I kept saying a million times, Tombstone would be a perfect villain for Luke Cage.
It's probably owned by Sony, though. That's probably.
Yeah.
Who owns Hammerhead? Can Hammerhead show up? I was reading like New Avengers Luke Cage, and he fights Hammerhead, and I'm like, that'd be a good fight.
Again, I think that's a Spider-Man villain. He debuted in the Spider-Man book.
Crap.
That said, I mean, like, here's the thing. We got the deal, so put him in.
Yeah.
Imagine
as long as they don't interfere with the Silver Sable Black Cat movie that everyone's sure to enjoy.
Again, they're never going to use Tombstone. Just imagine him being like, my name's Lonnie Lincoln and I used to run Harlem. Then I left, but now I'm coming back.
I mean, like, at this point, if they can't use they're not going to use Tombstone.
Damn it.
Because they're afraid. Because you know what it is? Like, what I've noticed is that, like, there's like a map that's now horribly outdated where it was like who owns what franchises and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I don't think that they even know at this point. Like, I think they're like, I think that Marvel will be like, yeah, we can use Tombstone. Oh, shit. Do we own that? You know what? I'd rather not even bother.
Yeah. I think it comes down to they don't worry about that until like a writer puts it in a script, and then when you do this in Hollywood, when you write a script, you have to hand it off to the legal team, and the legal team literally goes line by line by line to make sure that there's nothing that offends, nothing that like everything is owned, like legality issues. So I guarantee you, it's those lawyers that are like, oh, do we own Tombstone? I
guess we'll have to find out.
Hello.
Yeah.
Imagine having to phone that one in.
That's what they need to do. I mean, like, as I understand it, wasn't Spider-Man in the Civil War script they wrote the script kind of like as a way to be like, and then Spider-Man shows up, right? And then Marvel being like, all right, I guess we'll try and figure it out. We want to make these Russos very happy.
Well, it's also the same thing. Apparently, the original villains of Guardians of the Galaxy 1 were the Skrulls.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then apparently they found out that they were like, oh, Sony has those. Whoops. Or no, 20th Century Fox has those, and then they had to spend 2 movies to get them.
Yeah.
And now we know, oh wait, loopholes, and oh wait, we can also make trades too. This is like sports. We can make trades for characters too.
I'll be honest, I was like, when in Guardians 2, when we saw Watchers, I'm like, yes.
That's my favorite part of that movie.
That was so great.
Yeah.
Wonderful. There's so many favorite parts of that movie for me, but
you know what they need
Watchers
to do? They need to have a draft of Marvel characters. All the studios will get together and they'll draft the characters they want for that season.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that's better than what they're doing right now, which is nothing.
Yeah, well, because it's the same. There's a story out there that they interviewed Vincent D'Onofrio when Defenders came out, because they were kind of like trying to fish to see if he was in the season, and he kept his mouth shut. Well, I wish he had been in that season. But apparently, when they were making Spider-Man Homecoming, he apparently like visited the set a couple of times, and like
he really wanted in.
He wanted to be the Kingpin in that movie, and he like apparently was so all about it that he was like, "Look, I'll just be in a scene where you like swing by me. I don't care." Yeah. But they didn't do it because of all the legality issues.
Right.
So you're all part of the same company. Like, you own him. Just do it.
No, they really should.
Yeah, but we don't like each other.
Right, but like especially because at the very least, like D'Onofrio is one of the few actors they have in the Netflix series who's done movies. Yeah. So, like, there's no fear there. Like, you know he can handle it. You know he, like, has no issue with being on the big screen. But, like...
Yeah. We just saw The Cell. He's in The Cell, and he's amazing.
He's the villain in Men in Black.
That's always what I think. I'm like, he's Edgar.
Oscar-worthy
He's Edgar, yep. He's the bug wearing the Edgar suit.
The Edgar suit.
I have never seen a human being portray a creature wearing a human being suit the way that Vincent D'Onofrio does. That is legitimate, real acting. That's like Daniel Day-Lewis level acting.
Sugar. Give me sugar and water.
Dude's amazing. I was actually just rewatching Daredevil Season 2 just to watch Kingpin and Frank Castle butt heads, literally.
So good.
So great to see. And I'm like, yes. I made a video about that. I called it #Kingpin Homecoming. And I was pushing for it. The Russos need to be like, come on. Like, they need whoever's their golden boy over at Marvel needs to be like, come on.
Just do it. Come on. I'll be your friend. Come on.
Or Downey Jr. will be like, I'll give up 0.5% of whatever.
Speaking of things that we were like, come on, just do it. I am so happy that DC is finally animating Gotham by Gaslight.
Yes, that's our next story, in fact.
Yep. I'm moving us along.
Well,
nice.
Yeah, let's do it. Gotham by Gaslight
on this episode,
and it looks like Gotham by Gaslight's going to be both stories,
and
and more.
So I was completely. I had not heard about this one. Mm-hmm. Luckily, like in my gig, I get to hear about some of these animated movies way ahead of time.
Yeah.
Like there's one that's next year that's going to blow your mind. I can't believe they pulled it off, but I didn't hear about this one, so when they announced it, I was like, what? Like, I got to be surprised, and I'm very excited about it, and I like the idea, if you watch the animated video that's on the Batman Harley Quinn thing, where they're going to bring other DC characters in this universe, because I'll tell you what, I didn't know that I needed a little thieving gang of Robins in my life, but I do.
That was a great idea. Yeah, I did not expect that. It's a great little scene where they call each other the names. Like they're like, "Hey, come on."
They're like, "Oh, Dickie, oh, Tim." Oh,
I'm like, "Ooh, I like that." I love it.
Did anyone notice?
Go ahead.
Okay, I was gonna say, did anyone else notice that the animation in this one looks very reminiscent of the animation from The Batman?
Yeah, a little bit. That's fine. I like the animation on The Batman.
It was hit or miss for me. I just thought they would go more Mignola, but I guess it's kind of hard to do that in an animated setting.
I mean, the Amazing Screw-On Head is all animation, and it's a perfect approximation of Mignola's art style, but whatever.
I would say that, I mean, it kind of looks like lately, ever since we did Just League War, that they've moved on to where these movies all have a set style.
Yeah,
because they used to try to emulate the artist, and I remember every interview they always talked about that. They talked about how hard it was to match that artist's style. So I kind of have a feeling we're probably in the animated universe where they're just going to avoid it because it's cheaper.
Yeah,
and they can churn them out quicker. Where before it's like, no, we really need to sit down and refine the art style of this one, how it will move and how it will work. I mean, that was back when they were only putting out like one every year. Now they're putting out 2, sometimes 3 a year.
Yeah, so it's like 3 a year now. Yeah.
Dang.
I mean, yeah. I don't want to get negative about it. but man, that Harley Quinn movie was whoops. But
did you know there's a digital comic tie-in to that's like the prequel to that?
Did Paul Dini write it?
I don't know if he did or if he didn't. I know I saw it when I was browsing.
I think he might have, actually.
I feel like he's the only one who would.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he'd be like, anyway, I think that I find it interesting. The Gotham by Gaslight animation does look different from the standard. It doesn't look like the usual DC interconnected, like New 52-esque animation they're going.
As it should, because it's an Elseworld.
Yeah, it looks cool. And I like how excited they are. in the interviews about the little, like, if you watch the featurette, which by the way is available online, you can. But the featurette is great because they talk about bringing Elseworlds back, and how if you know your trivia or you watch back issues, you'll know that Gotham by Gaslight is the first Elseworlds story from DC, and I kind of hope that it ushers in a new era of like doing more Elseworld stories. I want to see Holy Terror and Red Sun and any number of amazing. Oh, Emerald Knight would be great. Yeah.
There was there was an the Nightwing series. Is it Lost Army or something like that? Or
Joel's
the
one.
New World Order, the Kyle Higgins one.
Yeah,
New World Order. That I was like, I read that book and I was like, man, this should have been an Elseworlds.
Like, they should have called it. Logo? They should have put the logo on. And, well, like, they say it is, but there's no logo. I bet when they collect it, maybe they'll put the logo on.
Oh, that'd be nice.
It could be like, they don't want to clutter things up. They've got a lot of stuff going on.
They do have a lot of stuff on there. And knowing DC, they'll probably want to, like, retool the logo.
Well, look, logos need to be refreshed sometimes, okay? I'm sorry, everybody.
They do, I agree. And by the way, I think that this logo is the best of the DC logos since the Bullet.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But yeah, the Elseworlds logo was like made in the 80s, so yeah, we do kind of need to rejigger it.
Freshen it up a little bit.
I like it.
Give it a little facelift. It's totally fine. By the way, just in terms of animation, I wonder, and again, because I don't really know and I don't have any figures in front of me, but I'm wondering if after they did stuff like Public Enemies, if they were like, we're not seeing the return on these to make it worthwhile to invest as much into having someone emulate a style. Because, yes, like, when you have, like, you make a series in America, right? Like, you create, like, this whole art style, you create this art Bible, and then you send it off, usually to another place. They learn it, right?
Yeah.
So you're pretty sure you're going to do at least a season of that show, right? So like, it makes it worthwhile to have them to, like, learn that. If you're not seeing the return in funds on these movies, they might be like, it doesn't matter anymore. Let's not worry about it.
Just do it like Batman Beyond.
Tiffany, I think you were onto something because you made me Google to see if there are numbers online.
Yeah.
And guess what, friends? There are.
How are they?
The best-selling animated film of all of their films is still the first one, Superman Doomsday.
Really?
Wow.
That's surprising.
That's weird, because that sucks.
Well, I guess it made like $12 million in its entire run.
No, it was probably because it was the first like animated outing they had done in a really long time. I remember
was the first one. Since
I remember
Phantasm.
Yeah, I remember too. Blockbuster promoted the crap out of it back when Blockbuster was a thing.
Yep. Now their more recent one, just to give you an idea. Okay, so you can look at like their first 10. And they're all like bouncing around an average of like 8 to 9 million per.
Okay.
Then about in the middle, they start hitting 5 million.
Ooh.
I assume those are called Green Lantern.
Green Lantern Emerald Knights, yeah. And then the last about 4 years, their average is 4 million.
Ooh.
So
now that's funny because. Oh God.
I was going to say, and on top of that, too, I have it on very good authority that ever since Flashpoint Paradox, they've been cutting their budget consistently, everyone.
That's too bad, because the last several have been pretty poorly viewed by the public as well.
Sure.
And
but it's interesting because the best one out of the last 10 is what I think is the weakest one, Killing Joke. Yeah. Killing Joke is the only one above 5 in the last 5 years.
And I wonder if that includes that, because that one had an actual opening. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. That might have like the theater grosses in there.
Yeah, I liked Assault on Arkham, and that was based in the video games.
I like the animation in Assault on Arkham more. Man, Killing Joke.
But yeah, so I do wonder if they're taking that into consideration. They're like, we still, at the very least, look, it seems like they're like, we still want to make these movies. We still want to tell these stories to some degree, but we can't afford to take a risk in investing that much time.
My guess is their budget is probably, if not $1 million, probably like just under $1 million. I wouldn't surprise me if somebody said that their budget was like $800,000.
Yeah, right. I would agree with that. That sounds about right.
So.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Tiffany probably hit it right in the head. I think they're at the point where they're like, we gotta like look, we got to use the same character models. We need to not spend any money on that part. We have great character models, just use them.
Mm-hmm. They do use the same character models. After Flashpoint Paradox, they started recycling background characters, not even just from other movies. Young Justice characters started showing up in the backgrounds.
I dug the animation style for Young Justice. I'd be fine if they wanted to rip that off, but like
that was a good show.
But there's newer stuff. I would be very disappointed if they kept using the character model of Superman from Justice League War, where he's all roided out and he's got like no neck. I'm like,
You want to know something hilarious, Sal? The Justice League characters in Young Justice, their models were actually recycled and taken from Crisis on Two Earths.
Yes, and they look great. I was fine with that as well.
They're good designs.
Yeah,
they look really good.
By the way, apropos Young Justice, Bruce Greenwood looks like he's playing Batman in the Gotham.
It sounds like it's him, right? Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. He's the other one I'm okay with. It's like if Kevin Conroy doesn't want to sleep talk through his performance, then get Bruce Greenwood. Because listen, I love Kevin Conroy, and I feel like I'm almost at the point where I'm no longer there anymore. But I had maintained, at least until the Killing Joke, that like Kevin Conroy should have right of first refusal. Like, hey, we're doing a Batman movie. Do you want to do it? No, I'm going to skip this one. Okay, we'll go to Bruce Greenwood. But now it's like, okay, if you can't, those are the two options you get. Yeah. It's Greenwood and Conroy. But I'm because I liked Peter Weller in Dark Knight Returns, but it took some getting used to because I thought it was a little less booming and bassy than it should have been.
I'm with you, Sal. I'm ready for Kevin Conroy to be done as Batman. I just don't. He is Batman. He has such an amazing legacy. Like I kind of think he should have said goodbye with Arkham Knight. I think that should have been his final Batman.
Right.
But also, when you get those awesome paychecks, I understand how you can't say no.
Yeah, I mean, the dude did the whole Justice League Action series.
Yeah. He did. A lot of them did. And I liked Justice League Action. I was sad when I heard that wasn't coming back.
With me, I wonder if it's Conroy's level of interest or if it's the director. Because there are some performances that you get from Conroy that are, like, spectacular.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's others where he just kind of, like, reads it. And it's like,
Yeah. You know. There's a lot of emotion that goes into that, so I guess it depends on the day and whether or not they have enough time and funds to have him redo it, if it's not flowing that day.
Yeah. It's not easy. Yeah.
Most deaf.
So I'm excited for that. Got my Gaslight. Gonna be cool.
Check it out.
Say maybe you could direct that rage to our next topic that involves a certain Cajun.
Get ready to hold your sides, everybody, because this is going to be a funny one. Channing Tatum recently stated in an interview that the Gambit film, which is still happening, they're going to have to take this one back to scratch. Now, I'm sorry. I know a lot of children are going to be sad. It's going to be like Christmas isn't coming this year because you're not going to be getting your Gambit.
Well, look, he had to go deal with the Guild of Thieves, and like there was just this whole thing. It's just look. You got to give him a break here, okay?
You just saved Bobby.
I only want to see this Gambit movie if it's like a weird sequel for Logan Lucky where somehow everybody has superpowers.
Oh yes, thank you, Jason. That's what it needs to be. I can't believe they're trying so hard to work this Gambit movie out. Make it a Southern fried heist movie. Gambit recruits an Ocean's 11 team of people with particular powers to help him rob something.
Yep.
You're right.
Logan Lucky is actually quite good if you haven't seen it.
It's awesome from what I hear. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
And get Channing Tatum out of there, because why?
Agreed.
Like,
because the Jump Street movies were good when they were putting this together.
Is everyone? Did I like wake up after did I Rip Van Winkle this situation where because it feels like out of nowhere everyone is on board for Channing Tatum, and I keep seeing him in things and I keep going but he's really terrible. It's the Sam
Jump
Worthington
Street movies, man.
It's the same thing as the Sam Worthington thing, when Sam Worthington showed up out of nowhere and everyone's like, so Sam Worthington's a thing, and I'm like, but he can't do a voice. He sounds terrible. He's awful. What is this?
Literally, they just need to go down to Louisiana and throw a rock and find something and hit whoever's Cajun down there and be like, you're Gambit now.
I mean, you can do a voice. You could do a silly.
Yeah, but why? You telling me there are no actors from that area who have a similar accent or experience that couldn't just be... It's Gambit. Look.
Well, the problem is the only way anyone's going to go see a Gambit movie is if Channing Tatum's in it.
Or you find a super hot guy.
I mean, okay, how many...
And hang on.
You put him on all the billboards.
And then you aim the whole movie towards women.
Right.
That's possible. That's an angle.
Sure.
You make
You're
it like
like,
that
ladies.
Magic Mike movie, but with Gambit.
With just Channing Tatum.
I know, but get him out. Just take that idea, and then you're like, here, this is what you want, ladies. This is how you get into superheroes, if you're not already on board. Look at this.
I mean, Gambit did open up a world of comic books to many different women in the animated series. For young girls who were watching Fox Kids at the time, they definitely were on board for Gambit.
And I'm sure a couple sexually confused young men as well, because let's include everybody into there.
Well, listen, I'm not sexually confused, and I'm still down for Gambit. I mean, like he's dreamy.
I mean, that head sock. Who can rock a head sock?
By the way, if you want to be on board for making fun of Gambit and laughing about him, look up the Pete Holmes Gambit X-Men sketch. Because
throw anything.
I've been laughing about that for a good solid year or two.
Yes.
And it is always funny, and it never stops being funny. And then you find the outtakes from that scene, and it's even funnier.
So,
but yeah.
Can I just ask, though, like, within terms of, like, I don't even know how I'm going to ask this. In terms of continuity within the, like, X-Men and mutant films, where will Gambit fall?
Ratchet Stone!
Same where he placed the Deadpool and Logan falls.
Okay.
Where will it fit in? Like,
but Deadpool makes an attempt. And
it tries.
Actually, Logan kind of does too, or not Logan, but like Wolverine does to some degree, like he sees Jean and we got, Professor. Like, there are ties. What's the tie?
By which I mean, if it's popular, they'll fold it in. If not, they'll pretend like it didn't happen.
Yeah, because we have realized we've already had a Gambit in this universe, and nobody wanted it.
No.
Oh, he was Canadian. What was his name? I feel bad for him.
Taylor Kitsch.
Oh, it's a bitch being.
I liked him
man.
in John Carter.
Yeah. That movie was 100
John Carter
years too
though.
late.
I thought that movie.
He was he gave a whole interview, Taylor Kitsch, on one of the nighttime shows where he's like, and I slept in my car, and and I really worked hard at my actor dream, and then all these movies came in at once. I was going to be in X-Men, and I was going to be in John Carter, and everything was looking up for me, and I'm like, oh, you poor man.
Yep.
You didn't know what was waiting for you.
No.
Well, I hope he saved some of that money, because it ain't coming back.
Wasn't he also in, like, True Detective Season 2?
He was.
Oh, yeah.
That's probably the best thing he's been in, but he still wasn't good.
That whole show had a lot of problems. Like, True Detective Season 1 was such a huge surprise. Season 2 was like, oh.
I'm a defender of Season 2. Season 2 is not as bad as everybody makes it out to be.
It's not. It truly isn't, but I will admit I probably watched it wrong because I kept waiting for the moment that happened in True Detective Season 1 where it's like, okay, but what's this really about, though? When's it going to be about robots or magic or clones or something? Oh, it's just a straight... Oh, there is no twist. There is no gimmick attached to this.
But before we derail this into the True Detective podcast...
I was like... I literally just checked out for a second. I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah. Hey, let's talk about how Irish comic stores don't want Marvel books.
Yeah.
Yes.
Lenticular covers, to be precise, but yeah. Yeah, Big Bang Comics, man, got into quite a thing on social media. They basically had a bit of a Spartacus moment where they're like, we are saying no to lenticular covers, and we want everyone else to know that this is not okay. And I think, as you were telling me, Jason, before we started, a couple other stores actually started joining them in this crusade.
Yes, there's I of course closed the window, but there is a service in Texas that orders comics for like several stores down there, and they also said, they didn't say the no to all of them, but they said that they were going to say no to every lenticular cover that isn't on the main miniseries.
Okay.
That's reasonable.
Did I also read somewhere that someone was going to have them but not sell them at cover price?
Oh, yeah, I heard
that was the cost
interesting.
of having them.
Yeah, I have heard that, yeah.
Well, I've heard on a there's another amazing podcast called Off the Panel, if you've ever heard it. It's really good. And on there they talk to this comic book store owner in San Francisco, and he basically says that, and he never names a figure, and if he does, I've completely forgotten it, but he names the figure that you have to buy to get the lenticular cover, and it's insane.
Yes, I've seen the numbers. I know what you're talking about, and it's actually in this case, it's higher than normal.
Okay. Hang on one second. There's a lot of like comments that people don't know what a lenticular cover is, so I thought maybe quickly we could just explain that.
Please explain.
Oh, me? Okay.
Or anyone who wants to.
A lenticular cover is a really great concept. A lot of people used to see these back in the day, where essentially you look at it from one angle and you see an image, and then you tilt it and you're like, oh, look at that! It's a totally different image. Cool.
Yeah,
usually,
remember your. Yeah.
Usually there's like a plastic feel to it. Essentially, it's just it's a trick of light at plastic and paper altogether.
Yeah, they recently did it for all the button covers, and I actually thought they looked really great on the button covers.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the most recent example you can use is the button, and too much effect. But even then, I don't think DC made anyone have to jump through any ridiculous hoops to
No,
achieve
and they didn't. They were just like, if you want them, there they are. If you don't want them, cool, don't buy them.
Yeah.
Someone in the chat just approximated it to a GIF. They're like, so it's a GIF? And I'm like, yes, it's a real life GIF.
This younger generation, am I right?
I know, right? The days where your comic book covers weren't completely silver,
or foil, or embossed, or all of them.
Or a little trading card on the cover, you know.
There you go.
A holographic cover right in the cover that you can't take off.
But okay,
if you collect all the trading cards, it makes up a 0 issue.
To bring it back around to this main issue, I think a lot of comic book store goers don't understand that the person who's behind the counter, who owns the store, has to do a lot of ordering, and they don't just get to order necessarily what they want at times. Like, they make these requirements.
Guesses.
Yeah, they also make guesses. You're right. Like, they're like, I think I'll sell this much. I have no idea. Let's try. And then sometimes a comic book company or distributor is like, hey, you can have this variant cover. You can have this lenticular cover. You can have whatever. But I need you to order X amount of quantity.
Yeah.
Now, does that seem like a big deal? Maybe, maybe not. Except for the fact they have to pay for that and then hope to make that money back.
It's a hustle. It's a bit of a hustle.
And no returns. So if you don't sell the 200,000 orders or whatever that you order... Stuck. You keep them, and sure, you can put them on the rack and hope that they'll sell, but
back issues don't sell.
They don't.
No, if you've ever
even
gone,
though they
If you ever
See, now I didn't know that about the no returns, and I think that's really shitty because when DC did Rebirth, it was like the first 6 months were returnable.
I recall that. Yeah,
which is why, look, if you guys go to a local comic book store, if you have a pull list, it's really important for you to pick the pull list up and actually buy those things and be honest. Like, if you decide you don't want something there, buy the most recent version of your pull list and then tell them to take something off. Be honest with your local comic book stores.
And it's also really important just to have a pull list, because a lot of titles that would get canceled, they wouldn't get canceled if people just pre-order them.
Just hold them,
But you gotta buy them.
This is all predicated on the fact that the whole comic book industry is supported by a monopoly of one company that does all of this and gets to do whatever they want. But yeah, pre-orders save books, trades usually kill them, and also cancel or buy your pull list, because if you're never gonna go back to that store, don't ghost them. Don't just be like, oh, I can never come back to that store again. Don't do that. Just call and say hey, I'm never gonna come back.
It's also a pretty ballsy move for Big Bang here to be so public in its boycotting of these lenticular covers, because don't think for a second that, again, the monopoly, the powers that be are like, oh, you didn't want to play ball with our covers, huh? Well, guess what? You don't get the next big thing now.
Right.
Yeah. But it's interesting because if you go talk to comic book store owners, and I'm really close friends with the guy who owns one of the comic book shops here in Sherman Oaks, and the attitude on Marvel right now is not positive in terms of retailers, because usually what happens, and it's funny, the way he's been in the business for 20 years, and the way he described it to me is that it doesn't matter which side you like. But it's always one of them are high, one of them are low, and then they flip-flop. Mm-hmm. And they said, the thing they told me was that right now we're at a weird period, because by now in most other periods, the flip-flop has happened. So Marvel has been like, oh, crap, and they've caught up. But they said it's weird because Marvel isn't catching up, and Marvel's doing nothing but declining in sales. And he was actually saying that it was really hurting his store, because he said my sales are half what they were a year ago. Now, part of that is the DC Rebirth was last year, but he said a big part of it is that Marvel is selling half of what they were last year in his store.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know part of that was Marvel's just putting out so much. They're expecting their customers to be able to afford however many books. You know what I mean? When you ask customers to buy that many items, they're going to have to scale back on some things. It doesn't necessarily work the way that people think it works, or it's just no, I want to make more money, I'll just put out more things. It's like, well, no, now you're asking them to spread around the pool of money that they have because they don't have endless funds. Just because you have endless creativity doesn't mean that someone's going to pay for that.
Yeah. It's the thing that most corporations do where they think that quantity is the solution, but no, it's always quality.
It is.
Yeah. Quality is always the solution.
And there's quality stuff in Marvel right now. It's just, it feels
is.
like some of it's getting buried under just, the big pile of everything else that's going on.
No, it's true. I really feel like Marvel, and I mean, I'm sure they really know this stuff, but still, it feels to me like they literally need to hire a company to go and find out who their audience is, because I don't think they understand what demographic they're selling to, and by that I mean like the pool of like funds they have.
Yeah.
I don't think they understand that these people, like, that we comic book people don't have completely disposable incomes. I don't have the ability to purchase every single book you're putting out.
Comics aren't extravagance; they are an extra.
That's exactly it. And I think it would almost do them like good to be like, oh, okay, yes, we are selling to like an older demographic who like has been collecting forever. But there's also a pool of younger folk who are like in college who have a lot of other expenses going on and they can't afford what we're putting out.
And also, fans would probably prefer to buy online, but that's a whole other argument for a whole other day.
They don't count.
I also think a big part of it is that both comic book companies have made bad decisions in terms of like their stories and stuff like
and
that.
And will continue.
And what they're going to do, but like I do think a big suffering effect of the Marvel problem right now is that, I mean, look, you can make Captain America a bad guy. That's fine. I'll read that story. I've read it with Superman Red Sun. Sure. Mm-hmm. But when you make him the thing that he is so antithetical to, then it just, everybody in the world is like, there's something wrong with that story.
See, I think that's a ballsy move, though, talking about a corruption of an American icon in a day and age where something like that is very poignant. But it's also
he's not actually being corrupted. Like, if it was the Captain... Because they've done a million Captain Americas... Not a million, really 3. But, like, the fact is they're so iconic that it feels like there's a million. But, like, they've done Captain America stories where he's become disillusioned with the American dream. And we've seen Captain America, like... Seeing Captain America corrupted, like, the way that people perceive America being corrupted... And I don't mean, like, that it is already. I just mean, like, how it can be. Like, you can tell that story... And people might actually buy it because they're like, wow, like... I can see Captain America making that leap. But if you just have a magic, wavy Deus Ex Machina that changes Captain America and then can change him right back at any point, there's no damn stakes in this story.
Yeah.
But he will remember, though, is the thing as we found it with Kobach. He'll remember the bad stuff he did.
That's like, okay, let me tell you an example of like it'd be like if you killed someone, right? Because by accident, like you were not paying attention and you run somebody over with your car, and then you had a magic genie that made you stop doing that, made that not happen anymore.
Robin Williams comes,
but you still remember having done it. Eventually, you will stop feeling bad about it because it never goddamn happened.
What if I'm really sensitive, though?
Well, I'll even give you an example from the. I'll give you an example from the DC side. Although this is not a great example because this story sold like crazy, but it was only because it was one of the first. Let's go with Death of Superman.
Right.
Yeah.
When the Death of Superman issue hit stands, I can remember as a kid reading an article in the newspaper about that, and then the bottom paragraph was like, but DC is bringing back 4 different Supermen. So on the day he died, we already knew he was coming back.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the same thing where it's like, well, if I already know he's going to be a good guy, then what's the point?
And I mean, that's just comic storytelling forever. The status quo is always returned to no matter what. Like when people freaked out about Agent Grayson, when they freaked out about Doc Ock, Spider-Man.
But the difference with all those examples is that Marvel has decided to be like, no, every title's going to tie in. Yeah. Every title.
Everything's involved.
They say that, high tides raise all ships.
Yeah.
Well, all their ships are bottling out and hitting the ground because of this event.
Yeah, it's Tiffany. You keep talking about how it's like the story can be kind of flimsy or simple if the journey itself is really, really solid.
Yes.
Great,
but like this event is spinning its wheels.
No, and that's Joel and I were talking about that, about how like for me, like if at the end of the day Kobach fixes all of this, the journey wasn't worth it because there wasn't character growth. Like, you know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, yeah, sure, you can do that totally fine, cool, whatever. Because for me, then the journey was just about the character. It was about seeing them change, seeing someone learn, whatever. We just have these characters and they're just doing things. And presumably they're working towards this goal that, like, I'm going to, you know, have revealed in the final issue. But if they do that, it removes that journey for me entirely.
I think the change was, like, the meta story of, like, Hydra Captain America could only succeed in a world where the heroes were at each other's throats. And the way they turned the tide was being like, oh, let's save people instead of fighting. And that's what they did, and that's why they're winning in the last 2 issues.
That concept is cool, but that's a story meeting. And you can then be like, well, we can change Captain America, or we could replace him with a clone, or we could, like, replace him with a robot, or we could, like, replace him with a Skrull, and the story is exactly the same.
Let me ask you guys all this. Do you think all these shops saying no to lenticular covers,
Thank you.
is that a bad sign for Marvel? Because we talked about this a little bit on the air, that I had somebody say that they think Generations is going to be the convergence of DC, and then next year they're going to hardcore reboot. What do you think? Like, Generations and these, to me, it seems like a company that's desperate.
It is definitely the act of a desperate entity, but I think it's systematic of a larger problem.
Sure.
I don't think that Marvel even thinks they're in trouble. Like, I think that if I really believed that, like, there was anyone driving the bus, which I've said a number of times, at Marvel, that this would be the act of a desperate person. Like, the Tom Brevoort, just like, I don't know what's happening. We gotta like launch lenticular covers and blah blah blah. It definitely.
And now I'm driving the bus.
Yeah, it reeks of '90s desperation, but at the same time, I also think that this is what happens. I think that the same level of desperation, like, I've seen Marvel desperate, and when Marvel's desperate, they get creative and they work hard. Like, desperate Marvel, more desperate Marvel, when Marvel was bankrupt and losing everything and bet all of their money on one movie, went into the indie crowd, grabbed as many indie creators as they could, and revolutionized the entire industry.
Marvel Knights was one of the best periods of Marvel of all time.
That's what I'm saying. Like, Marvel,
Casada.
A desperate, hungry Marvel is the best kind of Marvel.
Yes.
This what they're acting like, this ain't desperation. This is no one's in charge, and I think that the problem is that that those in the top have taken the teeth out of those who are supposed to be running the ship. And if there's no teeth in your editors, then the editors know they have no bite. Then they know that their jobs are worthless and they're not doing their jobs as effectively. And if their jobs aren't being effective, then the writers themselves are not being as effective, because they know that, number one, their stories don't matter because they could be thrown away or retconned or changed or not even edited properly, because I have seen more grammatical and spelling errors in the last, like, 3 years at Marvel than I had in the previous 20. And I got to tell you, like, it really looks like everyone that the culture over at Marvel, and I don't know anyone at Marvel, I can't say this for certain, but it really feels like everyone over there, or by and large the people in charge, are like, my hands are tied behind my back and I can't do anything effective, but I still work here and I still want to get paid, so I guess I better put out something. That's how it feels. Yeah. It feels less desperate and more like, just we got to put out something. And like,
no, yes, but I truly believe that part of the lenticular covers is desperation, because for me, them doing that is them trying to put importance on something that maybe isn't as important as they wish it was.
Yeah.
Like, at the end of the day, I think they're trying to be like, no, see, you have to get this, because trust me, this is going to be exciting, this is going to be big, it's going to be huge. You know what? Just put out a story that is that. People will talk about it and they will find it. You don't need to bait them into purchasing something that they don't really need.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, it was like, remember when everyone was complaining about about everything regarding Marvel? It wasn't like one thing, it was like a lot of things. People were just like, this is an issue, and like overbuying, and, you know, like changing the characters, and you know, you didn't lower the prices, and these events are meaningless, and blah blah blah. And they were like, don't worry, everybody. Generations is going to answer the question of whether or not there's room in the Marvel Universe for both versions of characters. We've answered that question. And it is the most, like, for me, it's the most tone-deaf response, because A, I don't think anyone was really asking that question, and B, nobody,
I think you were doing fine, honestly.
Yeah, they're like, don't worry, Generations Thor that will answer the question as to whether or not people are ready to accept female Thor. How many years has she been here?
It's been a while now.
The fact that they did Wolverine
3 years, I think.
Yeah, 3 years. Like Wolverine, Laura being Wolverine, meeting Logan. I'm like, didn't they used to team up all the time? What's the point of having another book of theirs? Like Riri Williams and Iron Man.
Did need that.
Riri Williams and Iron Man. She was born in an Iron Man book. Like, what are you doing? What is this? It's not answering any questions. It's not doing anything. It's not providing any actual answers to the issues people are having with what you're doing.
You know, it's funny that you keep mentioning also that people have mentioned, or on the internet, I guess I've said this is kind of like Convergence. You remember what Convergence did with their covers, with the 2 books? They got famous graphic designer Chip Kidd to come in and create these covers for them, just for this, which is sad because of the fact that it turns out Chip Kidd's a really big comic book fan, and he ended up being attached to something that people really didn't like.
His covers are...
They also weren't great.
Like those long box of Convergence books. Everywhere I go, any long box, any back issues that are on sale, it's just
But it's
because they were just faded. They were just like a color that was sort of faded over a.
I like those.
But like, here's the thing, and let me tell you, Chip Kidd, like that is not, in my opinion, a very good example of his design. The man designed the Jurassic Park logo.
Yeah.
Like he created that. And then they were like, no, just here you go. And so he does this thing because like he's just like, no, comics are cool and I want to be a part of it. And it's just like womp womp. Like for me, like that, like people saying this is like Marvel's Convergence, and then we're like the whole lenticular cover thing. I'm like, oh my god, it kind of really is. It's like they refuse to learn from history.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, just learn from... Remember when DC put out all those holographic Futures End covers?
Oh yeah.
Like, first of all, your events...
Which were lenticular. They were.
And they were lenticular. Like, come on. By the way, right next to the Convergence covers are those Futures End covers.
Yeah. Yeah. And, like, look, variants can work. They can. But, like, they need to be made special. It has to be not for, like... all the books that are coming out. You know, like, for me, like, when Image did their whole Spawn thing, where they were like, we're gonna put out Spawn covers, I'm in, like, this, like, chase now, because, like, I like the story God Country, and they created a Spawn variant cover, and they made a black and white, and, like, there are very few of them out there, and I really want it, because it's, like, that's cool and fun and special to me. But, like, they didn't put out, like, hundreds of variant covers, and I had to go get them all. Like, they just put out this one I was really interested in, cool, whatever. And, like, I feel like the idea of the chase is destroyed by having so many variant versions of, like, these covers.
Yeah. You know, variant covers that I really liked, that even though I wasn't a huge fan of the series, was... Do you remember when Superman Unchained was coming out, that Scott Snyder series?
Yeah.
And each issue, what they would do is they would have like a Golden Age variant, a Silver Age variant, and a Modern Age variant. And then they got the artists to do it in that style. So you'd have like this really cool old Golden Age Superman cover, and then you'd have like, you know, like him with Jimmy Olsen, and then you had one with like Cyborg Superman. So it was like this really kind of cool generational look at Superman with every issue. Like, and actually, I ended up buying a lot of those because I was just like, oh, those are cool. But you're exactly right. Like, just slapping on this lenticular thing, it doesn't do anything for it.
It's not special.
Yeah.
No. And it, at the end of the day, like, if you know that your industry is hurting, don't go out of your way to further hurt it.
Don't put more Gugas on there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But hey, you know what? From that Marvel story that was a little dour to one I think we can all agree in and pick up our spirits a little bit. Matthew Rosenberg, one of those hot new young talents from the indies who we were talking about, wrote one hell of a Kingpin miniseries that's easily on my top 10 best of the year for this year. He announced, it was either this week or last week, I know I've been away for a bit, that he is going to be taking the helm on the new Legacy Punisher from Becky Cloonan. And he had a whole big interview, and he said, yes, Frank is back. He's going back to his anti-hero roots, and oh, what's this? He's also going to be wearing the War Machine suit for a little bit. Rhodey doesn't need it anymore.
I've heard a lot of like negative buzz about Punisher in a War Machine suit. I think that sounds cool.
I think it's fucking metal.
Number one, it's not going to change anything. It's just going to, like, I'm cool with that.
He's just wearing the gun.
Yeah, he is a gun now. That's fine with me. It's better than him getting it's better than him merging with an alien suit that, like, and I'm not talking about Venom, I mean the Warrior, where his arm can become a gun.
Becoming an angel.
Yeah, or being an angel. I'm down. I think that's awesome. And we all know it'll go away. But, like,
of course,
but maybe Frank will punch Iron Man in a minute. Like,
but honestly...
Well, didn't Frank also, like, right after Civil War become Captain America, too?
That. was embarrassing.
He did.
And then he's also Frank. You know what, guys? I'm going to be the negative person about it. Like, I haven't read the Kingpin series, but I have read 4 Kids Walk Into a Bank, which I really like. He also wrote that. That's his indie series that he broke in on.
Oh, cool.
I just need the Punisher to be the Punisher. I'm tired of like dressing up the Punisher as this other crap. Like, didn't we learn from Garth Ennis that like, hey, when you just do the Punisher as the Punisher, it really works?
Yeah. He was doing that in the Becky Cloonan series, but no one was reading it. It was really underrated. It was actually pretty cool.
Well, I mean, here's what's funny about the Kingpin series. In the Kingpin series, you see like a Kingpin who's like, no, I've turned myself around and I'm totally different. I'm trying to make amends. Oh, nope, I'm still totally the Kingpin. So like he has the ability to write a story where it's just like, no, see, it's one thing, but no, really, at the end of the day, the heart and soul it's just the character for who the character is.
For all we know, the War Machine thing could be a Spectacular Spider-Man 150 or whatever issue that was when he got the silver like armor Spider-Man costume.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He has it for maybe 4 panels and then it goes away.
It might be like the first arc too.
It could be the first arc where he's like, screw this.
It could also just be a cover that has nothing to do with anything because
I mean, yeah.
Unfortunately, they really love doing that.
No, they made a point of saying that it will be part of the story that Frank does respect Rhodes when he was alive because he was as much a soldier as he was anything else, and so this is his weird, messed up way of honoring him, but also protecting himself because, let's face it, he was a bit of a collaborator during Secret Empire, so he probably won't be the most popular guy around Avengers Mansion in a little bit.
No, I mean, whatever. I mean, here's the thing, like, he's gonna throw it away with Extreme Prejudice when it's over, and that'll be cool. So, I mean, I would love to see like Frank get invitations to like different super teams because and he's like, what? Because I'm wearing a goddamn suit of armor? You think I'm a superhero? Get the hell out of here! And that's what makes him go away. Like, or it makes him get rid of it. He's like, ugh.
You know what would be cool? We know that like Rhodey had a niece hanging out for a bit. It would be nice if Rhodey's niece would be like, hey, give that back. That belonged to my uncle, you dick.
You can't do that because she's literally Riri Williams.
She is now. She never used to be, but
I mean, like, Rhodey's niece is like the character design and has the characterization of Riri Williams. Like, she has the history, she has the tech like knowledge. She's like, you can't have them exist in the same
Bendis
space.
didn't invent her, though.
Yeah, but Bendis won't get royalties for Rhodey's niece, so that's the end of that.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
That's unfortunate. I'm interested in this because, again, knowing Rosenberg, I bet there'll be some cool Kingpin connections. Like, that's a story right there. Punisher versus his Kingpin and the woman from that Kingpin miniseries who was the breakout star.
That'd be cool.
I'm all about it. I like Rosenberg. I got to meet him at Seattle, and I shook his hand and said, hey, that Kingpin book is awesome. Keep at it.
Nice. Yeah, Tiffany met, what's it called? Dennis Hopeless and said, don't screw up Doctor Strange. And,
I sure
he let her
did.
down real bad.
Did you, like, threaten him?
No, I was pleasant.
Didn't work.
I haven't read it.
I was very. You know what? A lot of people like it. It's not my cup of tea, but people like it, and like, you know what I mean? Like, that's totally cool.
Do you want Doctor Strange to be Star-Lord and make Star Wars references? Because if you do, then you'll love Dennis Hopeless.
That sucked. The Jason Aaron run was so good.
Yeah, I know. What's not fair, though, I think, to Hopeless, honestly, and this is a real tangent, so I'm going to go through it quickly. It's just the fact that he was given a book that was going to just be entirely within a tie-in, because his run on Strange has just been a tie-in to Secret Empire, and then that's going to be the end. That's the end of it for him.
That's a low card he was dealt.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
that's
not really fair.
He has his hands tied then. Interesting.
Yeah.
So
but he still found a way for Spider-Woman to come around on this adventure, though. My favorite will get to hang out, though.
Yeah, he did that.
I guess our last little bit here that I'm sure you guys wanted to talk about. Hasbro is suing DC over Bumblebee. Please explain.
So Hasbro doesn't want DC to have a show and a bunch of toys and merchandise featuring a character named Bumblebee because they're doing a whole movie based on Bumblebee, and so they don't feel that their female African American superheroine character in a children's cartoon should be named the same thing as their robot who transforms into a car character. And so, they launched a lawsuit that would give them the exclusive rights and merchandising, blah, 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 so that they could call their character Bumblebee. So stupid. It's just so hilarious. I was like, really? Like,
I wish I was still doing that Super Suit show right now, because this is a video I could pump out right now.
It's amazing. I was just like, wow. First of all, nobody wants your movies. Secondly, I would choose maybe a less sensitive target than like, hey, what a rarity! A female African-American youngster superhero on a children's cartoon with marketing and toys designed for young women. I'm gonna attack that so
also,
that I can make my
DC Bumblebee's older.
Yeah,
she debuted in the 70s.
Oh yeah, she did.
Yeah.
So obviously Hasbro doesn't know that, and they're gonna. Prediction is it'll get thrown out. It won't even reach settlement phase. It'll just get.
Why you got to ruin everything Transformers? Come on now.
Yeah, like first of all, you ruined Transformers. Don't go ruining other things we enjoy.
You got to ruin all the stuff we like. Come on.
Don't worry. Actual Bumblebees are also filing a lawsuit against Hasbro for them.
We're making them look lame.
This is where they've been. They've been working on their lawsuit.
It's true. It's true. They had to bring in the honeybees to help them support them. It's a whole thing, but don't worry. They're going to get their day in court.
That'd be amazing if DC countersued, won, and they had to change the name to Goldbug. Like he changed his name and G1.
Oh, that's such a worse name. Goldbug.
It's the worst. Oh no, changing Bumblebee to Goldbug was a really bonehead move.
And then what if they a stipulation of the lawsuit was that they had to go back in ADR and change that in all the previous movies?
Oh
yeah,
no!
So like, you're just like Shia LaBeouf is like, hey, what are you doing, Goldbug? And
yeah. Well, they don't even have to worry about like the lip dubbing. They could just cut to a billowing shot of the American flag between shakes.
Right.
Joke.
Yeah, will there also be a giant lens flare in the sun setting, and we're kind of off center a little bit?
It'll all be
slow motion.
And slow motion. And there needs to be a girl who didn't come from acting, who's just covered in lip gloss.
Yep.
And she can like be out of breath the entire time.
That's a very specific fetish Michael Bay has.
Cars and that.
Put them together.
Yeah. Oh, and that guy who plays like the soldier in every Transformers movie for some reason.
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah.
What?
Character actorman, that guy.
Yeah. I still haven't seen that new one. Woof.
But why would you?
Oh yeah, that's right.
But Anthony Hopkins is in it.
Yeah. And he gets to say Optimus Prime. I'm like, damn it.
Optimus Prime. Yeah.
They also apparently in the new movie say that the Transformers were involved with the Underground Railroad as well in this new retcon history that dates back to.
But the twist is that they were a literal railroad. They transformed into trains.
That's okay, I guess. And was Harriet Tubman also like one of the keepers of this great secret?
Yep, she's a Decepticon.
Oh no! Alternate history is frightening.
Yep.
Man. Anyway, I think that about wraps it up for this week's episode of the Weekly Poll.
Yeah,
I want to thank my very special guests for joining me. Jason, is there anything happening over on your place of business that you want to plug or talk about?
No, just because I don't know what the rest of my videos for the week are. But I'm trying to do like 3 to 4 videos a week now. So you can go over to youtube.com/Jawin and check all the weird stuff out. I just did a Tick Season 1 review, and I actually enjoyed the Tick.
Yeah, you dug it.
Yeah.
As Sal looks to the ground disappointedly.
Yep, he didn't dig it. Whatever, I don't care. I enjoyed it.
Listen,
I think. Well, yeah.
Listen, counter to what Sal thinks, he's not the end-all, be-all of opinions. Okay.
I'm not. Right. I just have one, and then I make it sound like it matters, but it really doesn't.
It's not that I'm mad. I'm just really disappointed.
I just don't like. I literally, if I could change one casting choice, and then the show's fine. I like the idea. It's just.
Well, anyway, anything else you got going on, Jason? And where can they find you in that whole thing?
No, you can always, you can find me on my podcast, Geek History Lesson, on iTunes and DC All Access every single weekday.
Check them out. Great stuff. How about you, Joel? Anything happening?
I got 2 big things actually to talk about. First and foremost, I will be at Fan Expo this week from Thursday to Sunday. Come check me out and perhaps someone else.
Yes, I will also be in Canada this weekend. So come to Toronto and meet me, both of you,
do that.
and we'll hang out. Yeah.
Hell yeah. And the other thing I want to talk about is I wanted to thank Trendy Butler for dressing me this week for the show.
I was going to say, it looks like you're looking pretty sharp there.
I thank you for that. And Trendy Butler thanks you, too. You can head over to them and tell them Joel sent you.
Joel, for a second, I literally was like, is that a person in the chat? I don't remember seeing that name.
Trendy
That's
Butler.
not what he's talking about.
Butler.
Stop, brain.
Make sure Joel's getting his Trendy Butler duck it.
Just try to make it happen.
But yeah, and over here on Comic Pop, of course, if you haven't already gone to comicpop.net, check it out. 5 shows a week. Check it out. It's great. We just did a great conversation about nostalgia.
That's right.
So check it out with us.
And
we'll see you guys next time.
Wait, whoa. And if you don't want to just listen to a conversation, you could go make your own Chacos. Because I did that for you.
Martian Manhunter's food of choice.
They're not Oreos, they're Chacos, everybody.
They're legally different.
That's true.
They're legally distinct.
Yep. That's it's a really sad tagline.
Check them out.
Chacos, no need to get the lawyers involved.
All right, we're ending the show now.
Yes.
Yep.
Bye, everybody.